And they were like, what do you mean? So it was always worrying, even back then, but clearly.
Christian Bale built his career playing fearless, unpredictable characters, but there's a side to him the world doesn't know about. For years, he kept his family completely hidden from the public, especially his daughter, who grew up far away from the spotlight everyone else saw. Now that she's 20, new details about how he raised her are starting to surface, and it's connected to his past, filled with family drama, public scandals, and mistakes that nearly destroyed his career. Once you hear the truth, you'd never see Christian Bale the same way again. The secret birth of Emiline Bale. Christian Bale has spent decades building a reputation as one of the most intense and private actors in Hollywood. On screen, he is known for playing fearless, complicated characters, and off-screen, he has always kept his personal life as far away from the spotlight as possible. But away from the cameras, the man behind those roles lives a life most people never see. Emiline Bale was born on March 27, 2005, in Santa Monica, California. At the time, fans had no idea Christian Bale and his wife, Emiline Bale, were even expecting a child. The pregnancy had never been announced, and the birth itself came as a surprise to the public. In fact, the couple went even further to protect their privacy. They did not reveal their daughter's name right away, choosing to keep that information private until later. The timing made the secrecy even more surprising. Just 2 months after Emiline was born, Batman Begins premiered in June 2005. The film launched Bale into a new level of global stardom, turning him into one of the most recognized actors in the world almost overnight. While the public was focused on his career, very few people realized that his life had already changed in a much more personal way. His relationship with Emiline Bale had always been private, long before they had children. The two first met in 1994 through actress Winona Ryder. At the time, Bale was working with Ryder on the film Little Women, and Blazich was working as Ryder's personal assistant. Before that, she had worked as a model, but she stayed mostly out of the public eye. For several years, Bale and Blazich were just friends. They did not start dating until 1999, and their relationship moved quickly after that. On January 29, 2000, the couple eloped and got married in Las Vegas in a ceremony that almost no one knew about at the time. What made the marriage even more surprising was Bale's own attitude toward relationships before he met her. He had openly said he did not believe in marriage and did not think it was something he would ever do, but after meeting Emiline, his view changed completely, and he later admitted that suddenly the idea of getting married felt right in a way it never had before. By the time their daughter was born in 2005, Bale had already decided that his family would come before everything else, even his career. When Emiline was about 3 years old, he made it clear in interviews that he did not want to be the kind of father who missed his child's life because of work. Even while playing Batman, one of the biggest roles in Hollywood, he said his priority was making sure he was present while his daughter was growing up. He often tried to explain his job to her in the simplest way possible. When she visited him on the set of Terminator Salvation as a small child, he told her acting was basically the same as playing dress-up, just like she did with her friends. Instead of treating his career as something serious and complicated, he tried to make it feel normal, so she would not grow up thinking his life was different from other parents. During those years, he described Emiline as fearless and full of energy, saying she was not afraid of anything and always ready to run around and explore. Even though Bale had become extremely wealthy, he said he wanted her childhood to feel as normal as possible. He talked about going to birthday parties, spending time at simple family events, and doing the same everyday things other parents did. He also made sure they shared hobbies together. He said his daughter loved art, so they spent time drawing, painting, and building things together at home. Sometimes that meant doing things he never expected, like dancing to music she liked or playing games that had nothing to do with movies or acting. As she got older, he stayed just as involved. Instead of teaching her to drive on normal roads, he took her to a racetrack so she could learn safely and confidently. He said he wanted her to be comfortable behind the wheel and not feel pressured by anyone trying to show off. Even while working on major films, Bale insisted that his family travel with him whenever possible. He believed having them around kept him grounded and helped him stay focused. For him, the balance between work and family was not optional. It was something he planned from the beginning. From the outside, it looked like Emiline Bale grew up in one of the most stable households in Hollywood. But the truth was far more complicated. Because the way Christian Bale raised his daughter was shaped by his own childhood, which had been far from stable, and the experiences he went through growing up would later explain why he was so determined to do things differently. Christian Bale's turbulent childhood. Long before he became known as one of the most disciplined actors in Hollywood, Christian Bale's early life was filled with constant moving, family tension, and pressure that most children never experience. And the more you look at how he grew up, the easier it becomes to understand why he later became so determined to give his own children a completely different life. Christian Charles Philip Bale grew up as the youngest of 4 children in a family that never stayed in one place for long. His mother, Jenny, had worked as a circus performer and dancer, while his father, David Bale, had several different careers over the years, including commercial pilot, talent manager, and activist. Because of his father's work, the family moved constantly, living at different times in the United Kingdom, Portugal, and the United States. For Christian, that meant never really having a hometown and never staying in one school long enough to feel settled. That lifestyle also meant he was exposed to the entertainment world very early. His mother's background and performance made acting feel normal in the household, and by the time he was still a child, he was already being pushed toward the industry. At 8 years old, he appeared in a commercial for Pac-Man cereal, and not long after that, he was performing on stage. By the age of 9, he was acting in a theater production alongside Rowan Atkinson, years before Atkinson became famous worldwide for playing Mr. Bean. At first, acting seemed like something fun, but everything changed when he was 13 years old. In 1987, he was cast in Empire of the Sun, a film directed by Steven Spielberg. The movie made him famous almost overnight. Suddenly, he was not just a child actor anymore. He was an international star, and the success of that film changed the direction of his life completely. After the film came out, his father made a decision that would affect Christian for years. David Bale left his job as a commercial pilot and began managing his son full-time. From that point on, Christian's career became the center of the family's life. According to people who worked with him at the time, his father believed his son's success could support everyone, and the pressure to keep working never really stopped. Years later, Harrison Cheung, who worked as Bale's personal assistant and later wrote a book about him, described that period as extremely intense. Cheung claimed that David Bale treated his son's career as the family's main source of income and expected him to keep performing no matter how young he was. He even said that on some mornings, David would try to motivate his son by loudly asking him who the greatest actor in the world was, expecting the young boy to answer that it was him. Christian Bale himself has admitted that his childhood felt very different from other kids his age. Instead of spending time with friends or staying in one place, he was always working, always traveling, and always surrounded by adults who depended on him. He later said that at times he felt more like the one taking care of the family than the other way around. That feeling stayed with him for years, and it became one of the reasons he later promised himself that his own children would never grow up the same way. But before he reached that point, his family life became even more complicated. When Bale was 17, his parents divorced. The separation split the family in a way that never fully healed. After the divorce, he chose to move to Los Angeles with his father, while his mother and sisters stayed in the United Kingdom. The decision created distance between him and the rest of his family, and the relationships with his sisters became strained over time. His 3 sisters, Sharon, Louise, and Erin, each followed different paths. One of his sisters, Sharon, was briefly married to musician Scott Weiland from the band Stone Temple Pilots, a relationship that ended in a very public divorce. Moments like that kept his family name connected to the spotlight in ways Bale never seemed comfortable with. Even with all of that tension, his father remained the person closest to him. For years, David Bale continued to guide Christian's career, and the two stayed professionally connected well into adulthood. But that relationship changed suddenly in 2003. On December 30th of that year, David Bale died from brain lymphoma at the age of 62. The loss hit Christian hard. Not only had he lost his father, he had also lost the person who had been in charge of his career since he was a teenager. Only a few years earlier, his father had remarried activist Gloria Steinem, and the family dynamic had already been shifting. After his father's death, Bale found himself in control of his own life in a way he never had been before. That moment became a turning point. In later interviews, he said losing his father made him realize how important it was to be present for his own children. Growing up, his father had always been there, but often as a manager first and a parent second. Bale decided he did not want to repeat that pattern. Instead of putting work first, he wanted his family to come before everything else. That decision explains why, years later, he insisted on bringing his wife and daughter with him to film locations, why he tried to keep their lives private, and why he was so careful about how much of his personal life the public could see. For him, raising his children differently was not just a choice. It was a reaction to the way he had grown up. But even after building a quiet family life, the past did not stay buried forever. Because in 2008, an incident involving Christian Bale and his own family would suddenly put his private life back into the headlines, and the allegations that followed would become one of the most shocking moments of his career. The 2008 allegation that changed everything. By 2008, Christian Bale was at the highest point of his career. The Dark Knight was about to premiere. The film was expected to be one of the biggest releases of the year, and his role as Batman had made him one of the most recognizable actors in the world. But just as the spotlight on his career was at its brightest, a personal controversy exploded that threatened to overshadow everything he had worked for. The incident began on July 22, 2008, only one day before the London premiere of The Dark Knight. Bale was staying at the Dorchester Hotel with his family ahead of the event, preparing for what should have been one of the most important moments of his career. Instead, that night turned into the start of a situation that quickly became international news. The accusations came from inside his own family. His mother, Jenny Bale, who was in her 60s at the time, and his older sister, Sharon Bale, went to a police station in Wiltshire, England, where they lived, and filed a complaint against him. According to reports, they claimed that an argument at the hotel had turned physical and that Bale had assaulted them. Details released at the time said the dispute began as a heated family argument. Sources confirmed the conversation involved long-standing tensions about his father, David Bale, who had died years earlier, and also about Christian's relationship with his wife, C.B. Blazich. The discussion reportedly became emotional. Voices were raised, and the situation escalated. Reports said Bale allegedly pushed his mother and sister during the argument, although no weapons were involved and no serious injuries were reported. Because the complaint had been filed, police opened an investigation immediately. On July 22nd, the same day the story started to spread, Christian Bale voluntarily went to a London police station to speak with detectives. He was arrested, taken into custody, and questioned for several hours before being released on bail while the investigation continued. News of the arrest broke around the world within hours, and the fact that it happened the day before the premiere of The Dark Knight turned it into a major media story. Instead of headlines about the film, the focus shifted to the allegations, the family conflict, and the possibility that one of Hollywood's biggest stars could face criminal charges. Through his publicist, Bale denied the accusations. He did not deny that an argument had taken place, but he insisted that he had not assaulted his mother or sister. People close to him later suggested that he believed the complaint had been made to embarrass him at the worst possible moment. According to those sources, he felt the timing was not a coincidence and that the situation was meant to put pressure on him when his career was at its peak. Despite the investigation, the premiere went ahead as planned on July 23rd. Bale attended the event, but the situation was noticeably different. His mother and sister were not there, and he avoided answering questions about the incident. Over the next few weeks, British authorities reviewed the case. Detectives interviewed the people involved and examined the evidence to decide whether charges should be filed or not. On August 14, 2008, the Crown Prosecution Service announced its decision. Bale would not be charged with any crime. Officials said there was not enough evidence to give a realistic chance of conviction. Legal experts pointed out that even if a minor physical confrontation had happened, the lack of injuries and the complicated family history made it difficult to prove the case in court. And with that decision, the investigation was closed. Even though no charges were filed, the damage to the family relationship did not disappear. After the incident, reports said Bale's contact with his mother and sister became very limited, and the situation created a permanent distance between them. The experience changed the way he looked at family. As a child, he had already felt pressure from his father managing his career. Then, years later, one of the biggest public scandals of his life came from inside his own family again. For Bale, that moment reinforced the idea that he needed to protect his wife and children from the outside world as much as possible. At the time the incident happened, his daughter Emiline was only 3 years old. After that, he became even more private about his home life. Interviews became rare, family appearances almost disappeared, and he made it clear that he did not want his children growing up in the middle of public drama the way he had. But the allegations at the Dorchester Hotel were not the only time his life became controversial. Over the years, there would be other moments, other incidents, and other headlines that showed how difficult it was for him to balance fame, family, and pressure. The controversies and struggles Bale has faced. Even after the 2008 allegations were closed without charges, Christian Bale's career did not suddenly become calm. In fact, some of the most talked about moments of his life happened after that. Over the years, he built a reputation as one of the most dedicated actors in Hollywood. But that same intensity also led to several controversies, public incidents, and extreme personal sacrifices that showed just how far he was willing to go for his work. One of the biggest headlines came in 2009 during the filming of Terminator Salvation. The incident actually happened in July 2008, only days after the situation at the Dorchester Hotel, while Bale was working on location at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico. During one scene, the film's director of photography walked onto the set to check the lighting while Bale was in the middle of acting. What followed was an angry outburst that lasted several minutes. The moment might have stayed private, but months later, in February 2009, a recording of the argument was leaked online. The audio spread quickly across the internet and became one of the most viral celebrity stories of the year. In the recording, Bale can be heard yelling, using profanity, and threatening to have the crew member removed from the set. The tone shocked many people, especially because it came from someone known for playing controlled, disciplined characters on screen. Instead of ignoring the situation, Bale went on the radio show Kevin and Bean to apologize publicly. He admitted that he had gone too far and said he was completely out of line. He explained that he had been deeply focused on his role at the time and allowed the intensity of the character to affect how he reacted in real life. According to him, he had mixed the emotions of the scene with reality and lost control in the moment. He also said that the situation with the crew member had been resolved the same day it happened, and that they continued working together without further problems. Even so, the recording stayed online and followed him for years, becoming one of the moments people often pointed to when talking about how extreme his approach to acting could be. That intensity had already shown itself long before the rant. Years earlier, Bale had gone through another struggle while trying to land the role that would later define his career in a completely different way. When the film American Psycho was being developed in the late 1990s, director Mary Harron wanted Bale to play Patrick Bateman. He immediately connected with the character and threw himself into preparing for the role. But the studio financing the movie wanted a bigger star and decided to replace him with Leonardo DiCaprio. Most actors would have moved on, but Bale refused to let the role go. Even after being told he was out, he kept preparing, kept calling the director, and kept telling people he was still the right choice. He even turned down other offers because he believed the part would come back to him. At one point, the project was reorganized with new financing, and once again the plan was to make the movie without him. But Bale stayed involved, continued training, and continued studying the character as if he had already been cast. Eventually, his persistence paid off. He was brought back into the film, and his performance became one of the most famous of his career. That same level of commitment also showed up in the physical changes he was willing to put his body through for roles. Few actors have gone as far as Bale when it comes to transforming himself for a movie. For The Machinist in 2004, he lost an extreme amount of weight to play an insomniac factory worker. He went from about 182 pounds down to around 121 pounds in only a few months. His daily diet was extremely small, sometimes just a little food and coffee, and the change shocked even the people working with him. Not long after that film finished, he had to gain weight again to play Batman in Batman Begins. With only weeks to prepare, he started eating large amounts of food to rebuild his strength, but the rapid change caused health problems and he had to see doctors while his body adjusted. He continued doing the same thing for later roles. For American Hustle, he gained more than 40 pounds, eating whatever he could to change his appearance. For Vice, he added weight again to play Dick Cheney, changing his body so that many people did not recognize him at first. By 2019, he admitted that those extreme changes were becoming harder to handle. In interviews, he said he could not keep pushing his body the same way forever, and that he had started thinking more seriously about his health. For the first time, he openly said that continuing those transformations could become dangerous if he did not slow down. Even after that, his work still demanded unusual sacrifices. In his recent film, The Bride, he played Frankenstein's monster, a role that required hours of makeup every day. He later said the process was mentally exhausting because he had to sit still for long periods while the makeup team worked. To release the stress, he developed a strange routine where he and the crew would scream together before filming, something he said helped him deal with the pressure of staying in character. That kind of honesty about his personality has become more common in recent years. At the London premiere of The Bride in 2026, he even told fans something unexpected. He warned them not to expect him to be the same person they see in his movies. He explained that the characters he plays are often more impressive than he is in real life, and that meeting him in person can disappoint people who imagine him differently. But behind all of that intensity, there has always been one part of his life he tried harder than anything to keep steady. Because while his career has been filled with controversy, pressure, and extreme decisions, the way he chose to raise his daughter shows a very different side of him. And the truth about their relationship is not what most people would expect. The truth about Christian Bale's relationship with his daughter. Today, Christian Bale's daughter Emiline is no longer the small child he used to talk about in interviews. She is now 20 years old, but even with a father who has spent decades as one of the most famous actors in the world, very little is known about her life. That is not an accident. Right from the moment she was born, Bale made a decision that his children would grow up as far away from the spotlight as possible, even if it meant going to unusual lengths to keep their lives private. One of the most noticeable things about his family is how little they appear in public. Emiline and her younger brother Joseph do not have verified public social media accounts, and they rarely attend premieres or industry events. When Bale does bring his family to a red carpet, photographers often notice that the children are kept behind him, moved quickly past cameras, or positioned in ways that make it harder to get clear pictures of their faces. He has even avoided using their real names in public. When he won the Golden Globe in 2019 for Vice, he thanked his family on stage but did not say their names. Instead, he called them by nicknames, Banana and Burrito, something that surprised the audience but made sense to people who know how serious he is about privacy. The reason for that decision goes back to his own childhood. Bale has said more than once that becoming famous at a young age was uncomfortable and embarrassing for him. He has described early fame as something that made normal life almost impossible, and he has been clear that he does not want his children to go through the same experience. Because of that, he has built a wall between his work and his family that he rarely allows anyone to cross. He spoke about this directly in a 2011 interview when he was asked if his daughter could become a child actor. His answer was very clear. He said he would support her dreams when she was older, but as a child, he believed she needed to stay anonymous and live a normal life. In his view, children should be able to make mistakes, get into trouble, and grow up without the whole world watching them. He said once fame enters a child's life too early, normal freedom disappears, and he was not willing to let that happen to his own family. That attitude has affected the way he chooses his work. Over the years, Bale has turned down roles because filming would have kept him away from home for too long. He has said more than once that no movie is worth missing. His children grow up, and he has tried to arrange his schedule so that his family can travel with him whenever possible. At the same time, his children have also influenced some of the decisions he has made. One of the clearest examples happened when he was offered the role of Gore the God Butcher in Thor: Love and Thunder. At first, he was not sure he wanted to do the film because of the time commitment, but according to him, his children stepped in and told him he should take the role. He later joked that they gave him his orders and that he listened. The movie ended up becoming a family experience. Emiline appeared briefly in the film as a small background character working at an ice cream shop, and her brother also had a short appearance. The director encouraged several actors to bring their children onto the set, which made the project feel less like a normal Hollywood production and more like a shared experience for the families involved. Even then, the appearances were small, and nothing suggested that Emiline wanted to follow her father into acting. Do you think Emiline should pursue an acting career? Tell us in the comment section below. Don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.